have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Happy Friday! It is the Bill Press Show with me, your host, Peter Ogburn, in for Bill one more day until he gets back from a little vacation time. We'll be back here on Monday, but until then, you're stuck with me. But boy, oh boy, what a day to be sitting in the big chair with so much big news going on. The President of the United States yesterday had a little chat, came out, talked about some of the problems going on around the world and here at home. He said that we are making some progress in the fight against ISIS and getting some of the evacuated people out off of the mountain that they've been holed up on and been held captive on. So our troop presence there in Iraq is working. Are you okay with having 1,000 U.S. troops on the ground in Iraq. That's a totally different question. He also addressed the situation in Ferguson, Missouri, where last night peace ran through the streets of Ferguson for the first time in several days. A welcome change of pace, considering that the previous several nights have been riots and police brutality. Police have moved out. The highway patrol has moved in, and they showed the police exactly what good cops should be doing, how good police work does happen. They engaged with their community. They kept the calm. They kept the peace. They didn't escalate the situation. That's exactly what it should have looked like. Sad news. We continue to talk about the story of Robin Williams. We found out yesterday his wife, or his widow, said that he had Parkinson's. He had been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and that was part of the reason that he was so depressed while also battling clinical depression. So another sad story, sad note on that story. And on NBC yesterday, they made it official. David Gregory is out as host of Meet the Press. Chuck Todd is in. It's the Bill Press Show, Friday, August 15th with me, Peter Ogburn.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, indeed, it is the Bill Press Show. Howdy. Happy Friday. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. I'm glad that you are all here. What's happening? How's your drive time commute? The old radio puker days. Good morning, everybody. Don't forget, you can always give us a ring on the telething at 866-55-PRESS. 866-557-7377 is our telephone number. It's one of those days where there's just too damn much to talk about in the 3 hours that we have together. So you're going to have to stay tune in for all 3 hours. We're just going to cram as much as we can. And again, my name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. So how can you get in touch with the show? Well, I'm glad you asked. I have all the different ways that you can chime in. First of all, you should be listening to us on your favorite progressive talk radio station if you are lucky enough to have one in your town. But if you're not, that's okay. You can stream live audio on the TuneIn app. Just go to the Progressive Voices channel on the TuneIn app. You've got us there. You want to watch us? You've got DirecTV or Dish Network. Boom. You can watch us on Free Speech TV. Don't have Dish Network or DirecTV? That's okay, too. You can watch us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKR TV, TAWKR. That's how you spell Talker these days. Of course, if you go to our website, BillPressShow.com, you can get podcasts without the commercials, edited for your pleasure. You can listen whenever, however you'd like. But look, what else do you want from us? We give you everything. I mean, we'll do everything but tuck you into bed at night. I mean,
we will find you.
We will find you. We will find you. That voice you just heard was Elisa Murphy running the board. Elisa, good morning.
Hey, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Any big plans for the weekend?
Actually, it's just going to be one of those nice, relaxing weekends. I had my mom in town, so
your mom is still in town?
Oh, she actually left Thursday. So
So your mom is now out of town.
A little bit.
You need a couple days of decompression.
Exactly.
To just, I'm with you. I understand. I mentioned our telephone number is 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. If you call that number, you will talk to Alicia Cruz, who is standing by to take your calls. And I mentioned the video operation that we have here. That is brought to you by the fine work of our videographer, Cyprian Bolding. So, there you go. I got to tell you, such a different scenario and such a different vibe this morning than where we left off yesterday. When we kicked off the show yesterday, we talked a lot about Ferguson, Missouri, and what was going on there and how ugly it was. It has changed a lot. The vibe overnight is completely different, and that is a very, very good thing. And we've stacked the show accordingly. We're going to be talking to a reporter from National Journal on the ground in Ferguson. Alexia Campbell is going to be joining us on the phone in the third hour of the program. Plus, we've got our friend Matt Laslo, host of Bills and Brews. He'll be sitting in for the third hour. And this is my fault. I booked the 7 o'clock, or the second hour of the program with all Daily Beast guests. Now, to my credit, neither of these gentlemen that I booked were Daily Beast employees the last time we had them on.
Yes.
So we've got Aswin Subsang, who is from the Daily Beast, and Tim Mack, who is formerly of the Examiner, who's now with the Daily Beast. Also, fun fact, those two guys are roommates.
No way.
Found that out yesterday.
Oh, that's cool.
I got an email from Aswin. He says, hey, did you really book Tim Mack on the show right after? I said, yeah. And he says, we're roommates.
That's funny.
So
tell them to bring like a Jimi Hendrix poster so they feel at home.
Yeah, maybe they'll cab over together, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they could. That'll be okay.
A beastly takeover.
Yeah, right. And then, of course, later on in this hour, we'll talk to our friend Susan Page from USA Today with our regular Friday hit with her. So big news from the media world. Yesterday, it was made official David Gregory sending out a very sad tweet. Saying that his time with NBC was over. He is no longer the host of Meet the Press. He's done. He's out skis. Here is what he said. Quote, I leave NBC as I came, humbled and grateful. I love journalism, and serving as moderator of Meet the Press was the highest honor there is. He continues, I have great respect for my colleagues at NBC News, and I wish them well. To the viewers, I say thank you.
Aw, fond farewell.
He sucked, by the way. He was terrible as
He's been on since 2008, right? It's been a while.
The worst. He was so bad. And granted, he had big shoes to fill, with Tim Russert. He took over that role, but just abysmal. So Chuck Todd has been named as his successor.
What do you think about that? Do you like that?
I don't love it. I like Chuck Todd. I think Chuck Todd's a very good reporter, and I think he's a good analyst. As host of Meet the Press, I'm not so sure. I'm not sold. Here's the other issue, right? That nobody's really talking about. Is the relevance of the Sunday shows. Like, when was the last time you heard somebody make big news on a Sunday show? That's not where they go to make news anymore.
Yeah, it's really just a recap of the week.
Well, that's the thing. It used to be like, all right, folks, so you didn't get a chance to watch the news all week. Here's what happened. But people watch the news all week, and with Twitter and all this stuff, news is with you all the time now. So it's hard to say that the Sunday shows are as relevant as they used to be. Anyway, I'm just saying, I'm not crying any tears over David Gregory leaving, and I'm not super excited about Chuck Todd either. Put somebody interesting in there, like John Oliver. I know he's got the HBO thing.
Fun.
Put John Oliver in there.
That would have been great.
I'd watch every week.
It's a good idea. That would really change the whole dynamic of the show.
But I think that's what the Sunday shows need is a big.
They really do.
There's a huge dynamic like that. Oh, Rhonda for Obama. Rhonda, we are Obama, by the way. Says, hey, Peter, I guess Phil doesn't really care what people say. Chuck Todd is as polarizing as David Gregory. But she says she will give it a try.
Huh.
So, someone's been won over. All right, so it was exactly this time yesterday that we were talking to Ryan Riley from the Puffington Host about his arrest in Ferguson, Missouri, along with the Washington Post's Wesley Lowery, who we also talked to yesterday. Big up, by the way, to the production team here on the Big Bill Press Show. But we were talking to Ryan Riley about his arrest, and I think that is where the mood and the movement in Ferguson, Missouri changed. If you have not been paying attention, we're going to bring you up to speed mega fast here because this all stems from a police officer shooting an unarmed black teenager by the name of Michael Brown, shot him dead. And the people of Ferguson were not happy. They took to the streets, not to riot, but to have a peaceful protest. And the cops came through with one of the biggest overreactions we've ever seen, bringing in armored vehicles with sniper nests on top of them, dogs, wooden pellets, rubber bullets to shoot protesters with, tear gas, explosives, all of this for peaceful protests. The president yesterday speaking on a couple of different issues, but he spoke specifically about this to just bring that human element into who we're really talking about here.
We lost a young man, Michael Brown, in heartbreaking and tragic circumstances. He was 18 years old. His family will never hold Michael in their arms again. And when something like this happens, the local authorities, including the police, have a responsibility to be open and transparent about how they are investigating that death and how they are protecting the people in their communities.
All right, so that's who we're talking about. And you want to talk about why there's a lot of outrage from the citizens of Ferguson? Well, you've not only got an unarmed black teenager shot down and killed by a police officer, you not only have the overreaction from the police in a violent way, you not only have them protecting the identity of the police officer that shot Michael Brown, you also you also have this issue of how Michael Brown was treated after he was shot dead. On CNN yesterday, Jeffrey Toobin weighed in on it.
I think this is deeply significant, this video, for two main reasons. One, look, 10 minutes of an exposed, dead 18-year-old with no one covering the body. I mean, they treat deer who get hit by cars better than that.
That is a brutal way to put it. But yeah, that's part of the reason that there's such an issue. Now, the president yesterday also speaking about the problem of excessive force.
There's also no excuse for police to use excessive force against peaceful protests.
Boom.
Or to throw protesters in jail for lawfully exercising their First Amendment rights.
Boom. Boom. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You can't have this excessive force from the cops. So yesterday, I think one of the turning points in this was the fact that 2 journalists got arrested. I think that highlighted the police overreach, their attitude of how they are trying to keep the peace through violence and overbearing, coming down on these protesters, people that are trying to bring you the story. So that was, I think, part of the swing to make this change yesterday. So the timeline starts to sort of come down. The governor, Jay Nixon, he finally weighs in on it yesterday. The president, he finally weighed in on it yesterday. They made the announcement that the police force were going to fade back, not going to be in charge of this. They're putting the highway patrol in charge. They brought out Captain Ronald Johnson from the highway patrol, a black man who took his team to engage with the people of Ferguson who were out on the street of Ferguson to, what a weird idea. Have a dialogue, start conversing with the people in Ferguson, find out what their fears are, find out what their problems are, find out what issues they want to have addressed. Wesley Lowery from the Washington Post, who, again, we talked to yesterday, he wrote a piece that just says, the scene in Ferguson could not be any different. Yes, yesterday at this time, there was smoke in the streets from tear gas and explosives that the police had set off. Last night, there were citizens taking photos and selfies with the cops and having conversations with the police. It was totally, totally different. Now, that doesn't excuse the shortcomings of the Ferguson police force. They still need to be held accountable for not only what they did by coming out and using excessive force against the citizens of Ferguson and attacking members of the media for even being there, but also for the shooting of Michael Brown. I'm just saying, we've made some progress in getting peace restored in Ferguson, so I'm pro that. So where do we go next in Ferguson? Well, the police yesterday announced that they are going to release the name of the officer on the police force who shot Michael Brown. That's a good first step. We need to know who he is. When we find out his name, we need to practice the restraint and the civility that we hope that the police would have towards the citizens of Ferguson. We don't want to jump to crucify this man, but we want to find out what happened, and the people of Ferguson deserve the justice of finding out what happened to this young man, finding out why this police officer did what he did, and if he acted inappropriately, throw the damn book at him. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's a good way for us to continue to have this conversation about race in this country. We had a great interview yesterday with Debbie Hines, who's a legal expert and a trial lawyer. And if you missed that, I highly encourage you to go check it out on TawkrTV on YouTube, TAWKR TV. It's youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKR. She was in the final 30 minutes of the program yesterday. And she said that, a lot of these problems come from the fact that we're just not having that conversation about race. She told a story about how her brother was driving, and he's a large black man, And he was driving and he didn't feel well, so he pulled over and he felt a little disoriented, and he called her and said, I see a police officer. Should I flag down that police officer and get some help? And she said, we need to figure out something else, because if you, as a black man, go up to a police officer and you say you're disoriented and you're driving, there's a good chance they'll take you to jail. They'll just take you to jail and then they'll sort it out later that, this black man was not under the influence and could be violent because he's a large black man. I love that we're having these conversations. We're having that type of those types of stories come out so that we can all check ourselves a little bit and re-educate ourselves and reacquaint ourselves with that problem. I say that as a very white man. I like hearing these stories because it keeps me in check, and it's nice to know what that side is going through so that we can make it better. And that, I think, is a big conversation that needs to take place in Ferguson, Missouri, and it seems like we are moving in that direction. I'm happy about it. I want to get your calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. What happens next in Ferguson? We will get the name of the police officer that shot Michael Brown. We have had some peace restored to the streets of Ferguson. Where do we go from here? 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania. Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water. Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Show. It is the Bill Press Show live on your radio and your TV and your computer and your smartphone. Come on now. We're all over the place. By the way, I mentioned so much news happening today. I just looked up at Fox News. Their big little news lineup. Coming up, the Beach Boys live.
Ooh.
Coming up, Geraldo Rivera live. That's the big news that they have going on. I stand by what I said earlier. I think that the reason that the thing shifted in Ferguson so swiftly was because of the journalists that were arrested yesterday, or in the late night hours of Wednesday afternoon. Yesterday, Joe Scarborough went on his, I don't think we have time for the audio, Elisa, but he went on his TV show and said, oh, these guys were just trying to get on TV, and when a police officer says it's time to go, you should listen to everything that a police officer says. Well, allow me to retort. When you're in a situation like Ferguson and the police officers are shooting people with rubber bullets, at best, by the way, and setting off tear gas, no, you don't have to listen to everything that the police have to say if they're acting in a manner that is dangerous and bad for you. Chill out. Chill out, narc. Your calls, 866-55-PRESS, coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, indeed. Happy Friday. It is The Bill Press Show. Gosh, I'm glad you're there. Thank you for tuning in. Carrying us here to the weekend on this August 15th. Taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77-377. I forgot for a second. You believe that?
No way.
Doing this show for like 9 years.
Don't you have a tattoo of that somewhere on your body?
I do. I have a tattoo of the phone number on my ass. only the people who know me well get to see that tattoo. But worth it. Totally worth it. All right. We're taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS about the situation in Ferguson, Missouri. By the way, any Missourians want to call in? I need a little help with the pronunciation because I've always called it Missouri. I've also heard Missouri. Now, we had a clip. We haven't played it because it's not worth playing, from the governor who actually says it Missouri and then Missouri in the same sentence, which leads me to believe that you could go either way on that. But is it Missouri or Missouri? I'm going Missouri.
I think it's Missouri.
Oh.
But I don't even think I do it justice in how you're really supposed to say it. Yeah.
Missouri.
It definitely
it's
has
like
more soul
Oregon
than
and Oregon. I say Missouri. I'm going Missouri until someone tells me I'm wrong. David in Sacramento, California, called 866-55-PRESS to talk about the situation in Ferguson. David, thanks for calling.
Yes, good morning. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Pretty good. Okay, so here's my point. A couple points. I'll make it quick. I don't understand when the president or anybody that says in any state when somebody gets killed or shot, they say, calm down. How do you calm down when it's not even your own child? I mean, calm down for what? For Oscar Grant for being dead over here in BART station? For the guy that being turning his music so loud being shot there?
Yeah, yep.
Or Trayvon Martin?
Yep.
Or what about this other guy in Missouri? I'm getting sick and tired when people say to calm down. I mean, the fact is you want people to calm down, then turn over this police officer and basically throw him to the people. So let them do whatever the hell they want to, do with this person.
I hear the passion, David, and hang on for a second. I hear the passion. I understand what you're saying. I don't necessarily want to see this police officer thrown to the people. I think that there should be due process. That being said, I think that this police officer should have to go through a living hell to justify why you shot an unarmed man, why you shot an unarmed teenager. Now, the calm down part, it's interesting, isn't it? How in this situation, in this case, it's a lot of calm down to the police officers. It's not the citizens of Ferguson or the people in Ferguson. It's the police officers who let this get out of hand.
Okay, well, you know what I don't understand is that people say calm down with Johannes Marcellus that actually shot Oscar Grant, and where is he at? The fact is, you want to calm down for everybody. The problem is it's like saying this: shoot a white man, go to jail. Shoot a black man, don't go to jail. What is wrong with people? I don't understand that.
I know. I agree, David. I hear what you're saying, buddy. Let's go to our friend Ike in my hometown of Charleston, South Carolina. Ike, I was just down in Charleston, by the way. I missed you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to have a meeting with my surveillance team and find out how you got in and out.
I slipped right in and right out, undetected.
Yeah, and by the way, the tattoo is stunning, I must say.
Thanks, buddy.
And it's great to be on the Peter Hogburn extravaganza.
Thanks.
Listen, real quick, I've been involved in some protests, and I also know the history of the cops and the undercovers and how sometimes they like to infiltrate and cause trouble just so they can use their weapons and try their tactics. It's well known what they did in the 60s. When it comes right down to it, our Fourth Amendment rights and our First Amendment rights are both under attack. And, if I want to peaceably assemble, I don't need a free speech zone, which has been knocked down. And those police, listen, if you can point your cameras at me, by God, I can point mine at yours. And as a matter of fact, I think we need more of them pointed at cops, politicians, and bankers in Wall Street, because they're doing it to us. If it's good enough to do to us, it's good enough to do to you, big boy. And where are the films and where's that cell phone that they took from that girl that recorded this incident? Well, how come they haven't released it? They're hiding something. That's the way they're making it look. And as long as they make it look that way, you're going to have a problem.
Strong take, Ike. I love it. From Charleston, South Carolina, my man. Thank you for calling in. That is the issue. That hits right at the issue. Look, are the police in Ferguson, Missouri, going to do the right thing, own up to the fact that they had a guy on their force act in a way that resulted in a dead, unarmed black teenager? Are they going to own that? Are they willing to own that? Are they big boys? They're going to be able to say, we have a guy on our force who messed up. He messed up, and we're ready to make this right. We're gonna give you his name. We're gonna conduct all the eyewitness interviews that we should have done a week ago. We're gonna conduct all the eyewitness interviews that we can. We're gonna find out what happened, and if this man pulled a gun and shot an unarmed black teenager dead while he was 35 feet away from the police car, if that's the case, gone, in jail for the rest of his life. Period. Why make that harder? Why try and cover this up? Tanisha in Seattle, Washington. Tanisha, thanks for calling.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm an African American woman, and the whole time we're looking at 250 some odd years of slavery, another 90 years of Jim Crow, and then another 65 of just everything that's been happening. And it's more or less like when we were brought to this country, we weren't brought here to be no citizen. We were brought here to be slaves. That's what they brought us here for. We've never had any kind of a right here. They've never accepted us here. Never. And so for them to continue to kill, they're not getting, nothing happens to them. You want to know why? Because they're not going to jail like we would go if we shot one of them. If we shot an officer, you better trust and believe we're going to be in the jail. But they shoot one of us, it's justified, or if not justified, they're on administrative leave, and they're getting paid while the so-called investigation goes on. And it's bogus, and it's more or less like, if I can kill a black man every week, which has been going on, within like the last 2 weeks, we're talking about 2 black men dead by police officers. It makes no sense.
There's this whole conversation on the black people in America, black society in America, why they're here, how they've been viewed over the years. Slavery wasn't that long ago, right? In the grand scheme of things, wasn't that long ago. I actually was having a conversation with another guy that I work with in another thing that I work on the side. He is a very successful man, very wealthy, created a lot of good stuff, and he has a ton of money. He lives in France because he's a black man and said it is night and day between how America views black people and everybody else views black people. He said here in America, even though he's a successful, very successful man, he will never be viewed as anything other than a black man. Guy could, own any house he wants, can't live here because he's a black man. He says it's just too much. It's everywhere he goes. He's always the black guy. That's how he's viewed. He's the black guy. Kim in Modesto, California. Thank you for calling.
Good morning, Peter. You're just like a fine wine. You get better and better with age.
Oh, Kim, thank you, my dear.
But am I the only one that is just totally pissed off at the governor of the state of Missouri, as I call it, and the mayor who actually had the temerity to say that they commended the police officers for doing their job and upholding the duty of the police officers?
No, that's a good point, Kim.
The police officer has to be given due process. Where was the young man's due process?
Yeah, that's a good point. Look, to be fair, I think that if this police officer did what it looks like he did, then there should be the process of give him that trial, okay? Like, I don't want to just have it completely... I don't want to... I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to jump to any conclusions. I want to find out exactly what happened. And if it goes the way that it looks like it happened, then yes, gone for life. But your point about the governor, absolutely. These police were able to run roughshod over the city of Ferguson for far too long. And the governor didn't do anything. He issued a milquetoast little statement that said, "Oh, I trust that the police will continue to do the right thing." No, that's not going to work. Police already proved that they couldn't be trusted. And by the way, everybody gonna get mad about this, but I think that President Obama should have stepped in way earlier than he did. I think that he should have seen the situation. I think he should have seen that the governor of Missouri wasn't ready to take control of the situation, take any action. I think he should have said, "Boom, National Guard, we're going in. Bang, we're taking this out of the hands of the sloppy police in Ferguson. We're going to show that we can maintain that level of peace. We're going to let these protesters have their moment. We're going to let them speak. We're going to let them have their voices be heard. And we're not going to come at them with, armed to the teeth, practically tanks in the streets of Ferguson, Missouri with sniper nests on top, shooting them down with rubber bullets and wooden pellets, tear gas, and all this." One final note on this before I move on, just to make sure that everybody is thoroughly pissed off at me. You know who spoke powerfully about this yesterday, and I think had some good things to say, even though he doesn't say a lot of good things. Rand Paul. Rand Paul yesterday talked specifically about the whole militarization of our police departments and says we need to take that militarization of our police away. And he's right. Those were not police in the streets of Ferguson. Those were military members. 45 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. We're going to take a quick break. We will talk about the president's vacation and what he's getting done with our friend Susan Page from USA Today. She joins us via telephone next here on the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, and for Bill, stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, live on your TV, your radio, your smartphone, your computer. We are having a great conversation today. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. It's Friday, and we always like to check in with a good friend, Susan Page, on every Friday at this time. Susan Page is the White House bureau chief for from USA Today. Follow her on Twitter at Susan Page. Susan, good morning.
How are you? Hey, good morning, Peter.
Good to see you. Good to talk to you. So let's pick up with the president yesterday. We were just having a conversation about the situation in Ferguson. He came out and again spoke about sort of the idea of what it would be like to lose a child, as the parents of Michael Brown have. And then he talked specifically about the police and the brutality, the excessive force. Do you think the president got ahead of this the way that he should have, or was he a little late to the party on it?
You know, he seemed a little late to me because we'd already had such concern over the incredible photographs coming out of Ferguson that made it look like a war zone. On the other hand, you know, I think last night, after a couple really tough nights there, things seemed to have calmed down. This new state police commander who has been put in charge there was out on the streets late yesterday, was marching even with some of the protesters, listening to them, and they pulled back some of those paramilitary kind of units that were on the streets. So it looks like things have gotten a little better, but I think the president waited about as long as he could before weighing on that. Now, let me ask you a question, Peter. Has anyone ever had a worse vacation than President Obama has had?
What a bad vacation. I mean, I agree he was late to the party on chiming in on the situation of Ferguson. I couldn't really figure out why, because it is an issue that I think he could speak very sincerely to.
Yes, well, there have been times when he's been cautious about weighing in on issues of race, although he's done that, seemed a little freer to do that in his second term. You know, some of it could be the many other things on his plate right now, including the the situation in Iraq and the situation in Israel, and I mean, he's got no shortage of things that he's having to deal with here all at the same time here.
Well, let's shift gears because you mentioned Iraq, because he also spoke about that yesterday. What the American people may not have been prepared for was that we now have 1,000 troops, or advisors, I guess you could say, on the ground in Iraq. That really jumped up to 1,000 pretty quickly there, Susan, after saying we were going to keep it as low as possible.
Yeah, and that's of course what we all know happens in these situations. Once you're committed, and the numbers tend to rise. It tends to be hard to figure out when the situation is solved so that you could are stable, so you could pull back out. I think that concerns a lot of people, and he's made it. No one could be more reluctant than President Obama about getting back into Iraq, but he's made it clear this is not going to be quick. This is going to be months at the least, and could affect what we do in Afghanistan, with a place where we're now trying to pull all our troops out of. So I know this is a real concern to everybody.
And of course, in the middle of all this real hard-hitting news, we also had to talk about the Hug Summit. This
Hugapalooza, I call it.
Yes, exactly. This idea that members of the same party that used to work together can't have differing opinions, apparently, is a real issue.
Peter, I think you better get used to this because we have 2 years talking about the closeness or the distance between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. So, fasten your seatbelts. This isn't the last time we're going to have this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that people would be that concerned and that weirded out if, two members of the same party just said, I disagree on this. Like, do they have to be in lockstep on every single thing?
Well, they don't. Of course, she was a Secretary of State for 4 years and is now raising questions about some of his foreign policy decisions. And you also have a situation when some of those foreign policy decisions seem to be turning out badly. So, and she's running for president, so we should not be surprised that this is going to be dissected. Just a disappointment that no one took out their cell phone and took a picture of them. That's my only regret this week.
I agree. Okay. Susan Page, thank you so much for joining us, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. Always love talking to you on Fridays.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, follow her on Twitter at Susan Page, and you can read her stuff at usatoday.com. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Just a quick thing I've got to get in here because not everybody. There are a couple people who are mad at me now. Mama for
No way.
Mama for Obama. One more time, President Obama is not underdog with the situation in Missouri, because I said he should have gotten in earlier. That being said, you think Jay Nixon did what he did on his own? Look, the president definitely had a hand in getting the situation under control. He called Governor Nixon to sort of help get this thing under control. My point is, it took him long enough. I mean, it was several days of violent protests, of people getting shot with rubber bullets, all kinds of police brutality in the streets of Ferguson. And the president could have seen that after a day or two and said, hey, pause. We got to get this under control. Like, we've got to get National Guard in here or something. Take control of the situation from the police who are clearly in over their head. That's my point. And I'm not about bashing. Good grief. All right. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Aswin Subsang from the Daily Beast joins us live in studio, so stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Happy Friday! It is the Bill Press Show with me, your host, Peter Ogburn, in for Bill one more day until he gets back from a little vacation time. We'll be back here on Monday, but until then, you're stuck with me. But boy, oh boy, what a day to be sitting in the big chair with so much big news going on. The President of the United States yesterday had a little chat, came out, talked about some of the problems going on around the world and here at home. He said that we are making some progress in the fight against ISIS and getting some of the evacuated people out off of the mountain that they've been holed up on and been held captive on. So our troop presence there in Iraq is working. Are you okay with having 1,000 U.S. troops on the ground in Iraq? That's a totally different question. He also addressed the situation in Ferguson, Missouri, where last night peace ran through the streets of Ferguson for the first time in several days. A welcome change of pace, considering that the previous several nights have been riots and police brutality. Police have moved out. The highway patrol has moved in, and they showed the police exactly what good cops should be doing, how good police work does happen. They engaged with their community. They kept the calm. They kept the peace. They didn't escalate the situation. That's exactly what it should have looked like. Sad news. We continue to talk about the story of Robin Williams. We found out yesterday his wife, or his widow, said that he had Parkinson's. He had been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and that was part of the reason that he was so depressed while also battling clinical depression. So another sad story, sad note on that story. And on NBC yesterday, they made it official. David Gregory is out as host of Meet the Press. Chuck Todd is in. It's the Bill Press Show, Friday, August 15th with me, Peter Ogburn.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, live on your radio, on your TV, on your computer, on your smartphone. That's right. We're everywhere. We're like the Coctopus. We've got tentacles out everywhere, like all these different legs.
Except using that analogy.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Probably not the best analogy considering our audience. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at BP Show. We are there tweeting all throughout the show, keeping you up to date on where you can find the video stream and the articles from some of our guests, like The man that sits before me now, Aswin Sub, saying from the Daily Beast, is in studio. You can follow him on Twitter at Swin24, a must follow. Thanks for coming in, Swin. I appreciate it.
Anytime, Peter.
I booked this hour. I booked Tim Mack, who's coming in after you, also from the Daily Beast. And the last time we had him on, he was with the Examiner. And then I booked you, because I always like having you in. There's a lot of stuff to talk to you about. Also, now with the Daily Beast. But the last time you were here, you were not with the Daily Beast.
I recently wrapped 3 years at Mother Jones Magazine, yeah.
Congratulations on the move. Nice to have you here. But we've got like an all Daily Beast hour. And then on top of that...
Taking over, man.
And then on top of that, you and Tim, you're roommates. So you guys could just, you took a cab over here together. I appreciate it.
Metro.
Oh, you Metro together, but you're both here at the same time.
We're both Asian men and bespectacled, so make all the jokes you want.
I'm not going to. I mean, well, I'm glad you're here. I mean, there's so much to talk about. I love talking. We always talk movies and entertainment and all kinds of stuff with you. So, again, I mentioned go follow you at Swin24 on Twitter. I want to play this clip, Elisa, because I haven't played this clip yet of Joe Scarborough yesterday. Because yesterday on the show, I was very proud of the fact that we had both Ryan Riley and Wesley Lowery on the show moments after their arrest. We had them both on yesterday's program.
Solidarity, man.
Yeah, totally. And I think that the one of the big reasons that the situation in Ferguson improved last night is because of their arrest and because of all the light that was brought to the fact that the police are just brutalizing whoever they want now.
The president talked about them.
Yeah. Joe Scarborough, however, had a different reaction to them being arrested. Here is what he had to say on Morning Joe on MSNBC yesterday.
I've been in places where police officers said, all right, you know what, this is cordoned off, you guys need to move along. And you know what I do? I go, yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am. I don't sit there and have a debate and film the police officer. Unless I want to get on TV and have people talk about me the next day.
What a cheap shot.
I agree with Joe Scarborough, actually. Ryan J. Riley and Wesley Lowery with their morning political talk show and their caffeinated pundits on every morning definitely want nothing but attention.
That's right. Yeah, right. I mean, this idea that you're in the middle of a situation where we're all watching police brutality play out over social media and on videos and on photos, that Joe Scarborough's answer is, do whatever the police tell you to do, that they'll never do anything wrong.
Right. And, I mean, they're in the field. Journalists get arrested from time to time.
Yeah.
It's not like it's reasonable to think they threw themselves in front of the cops so they could get more Twitter followers, although I'm sure they got plenty more after this happened.
They did. Yeah, absolutely.
And they deserve them.
Sure.
They've been doing some great reporting on the ground there. Ryan J. Riley's at Huffington Post. Wesley Lowery is at the Washington Post. Yeah. I encourage all your listeners to read their work and follow them on Twitter.
Absolutely. I echo that. 100%. Okay, so let's talk about probably the biggest movie coming out this weekend, The Expendables 3.
It's August, ain't it?
They've made 3 of them. Now, I will confess that I saw the first one in the movie theater, and I enjoyed it, the first Expendables. It's a terrible movie. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good popcorn flick, and to see all these weird old action stars from my childhood come back to life, I was into it. So it's a fun movie.
First 2, I was into the first 2.
I didn't see 2.
It's better. It's even better than 1.
If you aren't familiar, they bring all these old action heroes from my childhood, and
plus Jatham Statham and Jet Li.
That's right, and then new school action stars. So it's as many action stars as you could possibly fit into a movie.
Yeah,
they put into this movie, led by Sylvester Stallone. And your piece for the Daily Beast, headline, Rambo hates guns, how Sylvester Stallone became the most anti-gun celebrity in Hollywood. Really? I honestly had no idea.
More anti-gun than all the other anti-gun celebrities in Hollywood who you're thinking of. And the kicker about this is that Sylvester Stallone, he's not a raging liberal or anything like that. In fact, he's I guess you could call him a Hollywood conservative. But ever since the 1998 shooting death of his friend, comedian Phil Hartman, I remember that tragic story.
Yes, yeah.
Shortly after it happened, he was talking to Access Hollywood, And he actually went as far to propose repealing the Second Amendment and having the government go door to door, taking every handgun in America so stuff like this wouldn't happen anymore. And even before this happened, in 1994, he supported the Brady Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And in years later, when after Newtown happened, while he's promoting his new film at the time, somewhat ironically titled Bullet to the Head, he talked about the need for stricter gun laws and how there should be the assault weapons ban should be reinstated, the one that expired before, and saying, like, what do you need an assault weapon for? Like, who's going to attack you up?
That's a good Stallone, by the way.
It's a terrible Stallone, but I'm doing what I can.
I'm with you. I went there with you.
But basically, and for this, he's obviously, in spite of his, like, ultra-buff, gun-toting image on the screen, and the fact that his paychecks are bigger, usually the bigger guns he has on screen, he's made no friends on the so-called pro-gun right, as you can probably guess.
But, confession time, I had no idea that this was the case. And he's clearly been very vocal about it. But if this had been, like, Brad Pitt or
Susan Sarandon
or Barbara Streisand or someone like that, I don't think we would have heard the end of it on Fox News. But I certainly haven't seen one mention of it.
Well, after his comments on the post-Newtown stuff, there was at least one Fox News segment on it where Eric Bolling was hosting. I forget which show it was for. And, talking about the hypocrisy of people like Sylvester Stallone who make all this money off of violence and gun violence in films, yet say we need to take away people's guns in real life.
I don't think that that's a point that's too far off base, to be honest. I think that, how many people has he killed with a gun in the movies?
Sure, but
hundreds.
Movies are movies.
Agreed.
I mean, I really, whenever a gun tragedy like makes national news and we have a whole other national discussion about that, it inevitably goes nowhere, tragically. People, particularly those in conservative media and certain politicians, pundits, whoever, counter with, well, you're talking about guns. What about the violence in Hollywood and video games? Well, we've done studies on this, and we kind of know that that's not the problem.
Yeah. No, I'm not that. Yeah, I understand. I'm not that guy to say that video games or movies sort of make people violent, but I do. Like, I get genuinely pissed off, like when E.T. comes out and they've replaced the guns with radios. Like they had when the E.T. movie came back out, they had the cops with the guns in the air, and they changed it to where they have little walkie-talkies in the air.
Oh yeah, that's lame.
That's totally lame.
That's awful.
But I mean, the automatic weapons, 2 AK-47s in each hand, blowing stuff up.
Rambo, the Expendables franchises.
Exactly, the way Sylvester Stallone does. Certainly, I think he's made plenty of money off of guns. The image of using guns.
Sure. Which I say again, I am okay with. And I'm not necessarily for his position of taking every handgun in America either.
Seriously, imagine if Michael Moore said that.
Right. I'm not sure if Michael Moore's even gone that far.
I know.
Guns and Ammo listed him a few years ago as one of their 8 surprising anti-gun celebrities. And they wrote that, there are celebrities and actors out there who, might want to do something about guns and gun control in America, but not everybody has a view quite as totalitarian as Stallone's.
Getting rid of the Second Amendment and rounding up all the guns house to house.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
Rocky, man.
That's right. That's right. How's the Expendables 3 going to do? It's the summer movie season has been meh.
It's hard to tell. I haven't really been looking at the box office predictions for this movie. But as you were saying, just not only box office, but also in terms, I think we can agree on quality. This summer has not been the best for movies.
It's been bad.
But no.
It's been really bad. It's been really bad.
Very bad. There's been, I'm not sure I need all the fingers on my left hand to count how many movies have been worth seeing in theaters this summer. There was Snowpiercer.
Which I haven't seen.
You should.
I hear that's very good.
It's a good sci-fi action film that's actually about class warfare. And 22 Jump Street, I thought was hilarious.
That was good. I saw that.
as was Neighbors with Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne and Zac Efron. I'm not sure.
The Captain America Winter Soldier movie I thought was good.
Yeah, that came out in April though.
Okay, that doesn't count.
It was a summer movie in the same way that eating brunch at 4 p.m. is still brunch. I guess like summer
That's
movies
fair.
it's a state of mind.
That's fair.
At this point.
That's fair.
But yeah, that was Captain America 2 was very good.
Yeah.
And you were telling me on a break how good Guardians of the Galaxy was.
I cannot tell you how much I love Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'm sure I'd really like it too. I just missed the screening and haven't caught up yet. But I've heard nothing but good things.
This is the first movie I've seen since I thought about it. I think the last movie I saw in the theater 2 times was Back to the Future 2. It's been that long. And we've now seen Guardians of the Galaxy twice in the theater, and there are rumors of us going to see it thrice.
Ooh. Was it better the second time?
I thought it was better the second time. My kids agree. And we took my wife the second time, and she hates movies like Guardians of the Galaxy. She loved it.
Great.
She loved it. We have the soundtrack, the whole thing. It's a whole thing.
The soundtrack, it's loaded with songs.
Elisa, stop laughing at me. She is making so much fun of me because I talk about it every time I host. Don't hate.
I think we should actually maybe do an hour on it next week.
No, this is not sponsored content, I'd like to point out.
Bill Press Show, sponsored by Marvel.
Yeah, they need our help. Apparently. They really need our help to promote their movies. Is there anything? I mean, is there anything else on the horizon? Or are we pretty much out of the summer movie season? We're looking forward to.
We are looking forward to Oscar bait.
Okay.
We are looking forward to the new Christopher Nolan film, which I believe comes out in November.
I'm amped for that. That looks good. Mm-hmm. Interstellar.
Yes.
Matthew McConaughey.
Oh yeah, yeah. Part 5, 6, whatever of the reconnaissance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. All right, so let's take a quick break, Elisa, if we can, because we still have a lot of stuff to talk about, including the latest at Fox News and one of their commentators. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Aswin Subsang is in studio with us. You can follow him on Twitter at Swin24. Quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, 23 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill, with Aswin Subsang from the Daily Beast in studio with us. Stay tuned, because the Daily Beast takeover continues in the next half hour of the program as Tim Mack from the Daily Beast joins us in studio. Tim, Aswin, I gotta...
Don't worry about it.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Shut up, Cyprian! I got a question on Twitter from Astasia. She asked if you have seen Boyhood. Boyhood seems to be making a lot of waves.
It has been. I tragically have not, but I understand you have, so now's your chance to sell me on it.
Well, I haven't seen it. I'm going to see it this weekend.
You're going to see it this weekend.
Bill
Okay.
saw it, and Bill is Mr. Anti-movies over 2 hours long. Like, he will not go see movies over 2 hours long, but he saw Boyhood, which is 3 hours. Apparently, it's like every minute of 3 hours, and he like could not stop talking about it. This is awesome. But I mean, the whole premise of filming this group of people over, was it 9 years?
9 years,
or 12 years?
Yeah.
12 years, I think.
Or some long period.
It's never really been done in a movie before, or has it?
No. Richard Linklater, he's the famous writer-director who's done movies like, Dazed and Confused, A Scanner Darkly, and this is been his project for the last decade or so, and it got a lot of good buzz, press. It was well received after it came out, and thank goodness it were, because can you imagine working on something for this long?
Oh my god!
And then have it like fall apart critically?
Yeah.
So good for him,
Yeah.
and I hope to see the movie soon.
Yeah, I'm going this weekend, so I can't wait to check it out. You had a piece about one of Fox News's pundits, analysts, commentators, personalities,
Squawker,
Todd Starnes.
Yes,
my favorite person on Twitter, although he has blocked me.
He unfollowed me. He hasn't blocked me. I know, it's so sad. So sad.
Well, he is... I have a lot to say about Todd Starnes, because he is from the South, and he plays up the fact that he's from the South using all kinds of Southern stereotypes.
He's a walking stereotype.
Yeah, I mean, he is... That's a great way to put it. I grew up in the South, too, right? I don't know anybody that talks the way that Todd Starnes talks and carries on the way that Todd Starnes carries on.
I mean, there's... Do you know Andy Curo, the editor-in-chief of the website Mediaite?
Yes.
He tweeted out, I think, a screenshot. This was a while back when Todd Starnes' latest book came out. It's just like the first page, and it's the most hilarious.
I saw that
thing I've ever seen, because it's like the stereotype of like a Duck Dynasty watching Southern bigot.
Yeah,
And obviously, I'm not
yeah.
saying that people who watch Duck Dynasty or people from the South are bigots, but if you imagine this horrific negative stereotype, it comes through within like his word salad of a first page in his new book, and I'm sure it bleeds through the rest of it. But it's just insane. It's the funniest performance art I've ever heard.
It really is. It is like if Andy Kaufman did a Southern character, you would have Todd Starnes. You know, this guy that comes on and talks like this, and I put doggone gravy in my coffee in the morning so that I can dunk my biscuit in it.
There's nothing wrong with anything you just said, except Todd Starnes is a particularly mean-spirited person. That's what makes it so terrible. And
yeah, every person that I know from the South, like, you know, I mean, the talks and that, man, they're generally sweet people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
But you're referring to the Michael Brown stuff.
I'm talking about let's get it out. The Michael Brown tweet. His tweet or his comments about the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson, Missouri, particularly, were really ugly.
And there's nothing unique about this. He does stuff like this all the time. We don't have time to get into his homophobic and racially charged history right now. But very recently, after the president released his statement earlier this week, calling for calm and also saying, like, condolences to the family of the shot and killed unarmed teenager, African-American teenager, Michael Brown, in Ferguson, Missouri. You know, pretty simple stuff.
Yeah.
It's a major news story. It makes sense that the president would issue a sort of like condolences giving, yet ultimately sort of meaningless blah statement on this issue. And Starnes seized on this to be like, I see that President Obama gave his support to that Harvard professor, Trayvon, and now Michael Brown. I'm sensing a pattern.
Yeah. And that's not all he said. Can you stick around? We're going to talk about this a little bit more. We'll get Tim in. Can you stick around for just a little bit longer?
Absolutely.
All right. Peter Ogburn sitting in for Bill Press. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I wrote Black Stats because I wanted to compile an easy reference of contemporary information to help inform our conversations about Black America's current conditions.
The final play, take me through it.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game. When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're going to get. Don't you ever talk about me.
The way in which he was cast as a thug and the way in which people negatively responded to him engaging based purely on his appearance and his so-called cockiness, I think is associated with a stat that we found, how Black players are 67% of the players in the NFL, but they receive 92% of the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. There's this ongoing criminalization and negative or destructive public narrative associated with being cocky and Black. Over time, you know, this very destructive image of a welfare, you know, sort of the welfare queen, has played a role in how people respond to poverty and, I guess, among Black women. Black people now account for less than a third of TANF recipients. So this idea of a Black welfare queen really just has no credence and is not really justifiable. Often in education, we hear, probably more often than not, that Black parents are not engaged in conversations about education at home. In fact, 83% of Black high school students have had their homework checked at home, compared with 57% of white students and 59% of Asian students. The popular narrative for so many years has been, there are more Black men in prison than in college.
We have more work to do when more young Black men languish in prison than attend colleges and universities across America.
And that's not true. Today, you know, there are 600,000 more Black men in college than there are in prison. So in the conversation about progress, 84% of Black Americans aged 25 and older now have a high school diploma or better, compared to just 31% in 1970. And 20% of Black Americans have a college degree or better, compared with just 4% from 1970. So there is a story of progress. The other thing I wanted to say that is least talked about is the level of service among Black college students. HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, actually have the highest rate of student involvement in service than any other colleges. And that level of civic engagement is a story that we could definitely tell much more.
you wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show. 33 minutes past the hour. Bill is out today. He will be back tomorrow. Don't worry. Thank you for all of your constructive criticism while he's gone. I've gotten a few, Elisa.
People love you, Peter.
Not as many as I usually get, but I'm getting a couple.
It's the Sugar Pie Ogburn Show.
This is all sweetness. Everyone thinks I'm angry and yelling. I'm not yelling. What if I gotten angry? This is Sugar Pie Ogburn right here. Nothing but love. I'm fine. All right, so in the last segment, we were talking to Aswin Subsang from the Daily Beast about Todd Starnes, and I got to it too late. We just didn't have enough time to give it the proper attention that it deserved. So we're keeping you in. We've also brought in your colleague / roommate, Tim Mack from the Daily Beast.
Indeed.
Guys, thanks so much for being in here. This little round table we've got going on.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Thank you for both being in here.
Thanks for having us.
Daily Beast Takeover. Let's finish up on the Starnes stuff, because
sure thing.
During the break, Tim, we would get your take on some of this as well. The general misreaction by some of the GOP with the Michael Brown Ferguson case.
Well, to recap for your listeners and viewers, Todd Starnes is a Fox News radio host, and he's on the network, like their TV shows, pretty often.
Yeah.
And in response to Obama's initial statement on the Michael Brown tragedy and the call for calm in Ferguson, he tweeted that why isn't Obama issuing condolences to the cop?
Yeah.
And why isn't he doing the same for white people who get beaten up by angry mobs? And anyway,
it's just so off base that it's laughable. But I mean, it's also is he confused? Did he think that the cop was killed too?
No, he's not confused at all. He's a ridiculous, despicable person that Fox News keeps on for. I don't know. Let us speculate later.
Yeah.
But, so this stuff isn't new for him. But the interesting thing to me isn't so much Todd Starnes, because we all know that he doesn't have a very good record when talking about race or minorities in America or anywhere in the world. But the thing is, he sort of represents, when he does stuff like this, the conservative pushback, particularly in conservative media, like the heavy hitters, the big players in conservative media. Whenever a story like this happens, like you saw with Trayvon Martin, you're seeing it with Michael Brown, that they immediately respond by saying stuff like, oh, why is this a national news story? Where are these people like Al Sharpton or the liberal media when there's all these shootings in Detroit or Chicago or black on black violence? And, well, first of all, say what you want about Al Sharpton, and I could say negative things about him all day.
Sure.
He does talk about that a lot. It's not our fault or Al Sharpton's fault that people on Fox News don't know how to use this thing called Google.com. You can find it very easily.
Well, what's the ignorance here? What's the problem? I mean, why is there such tone deafness? The real reason is you can't talk about race without acknowledging the centuries old racism that is part of the American founding and American history.
Yeah.
That if you try to think that we are currently on parity between different racial groups in this country, that they're being treated equally and that they should be treated equally in the public discourse, there's something profoundly ignorant about your understanding of history. And that's why Todd Starnes' comments come off as so off base.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. We yesterday in the final hour of the program, we were talking to a trial lawyer and legal expert, Debbie Hines, who's a black woman, and she said, like, we've got to just talk about the whole race thing. Slavery was not that long ago, right, in the grand scheme of things.
We have parents who were alive when black people were violently kept from voting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not ancient history.
It's not ancient history at all.
And for black people in Ferguson, Missouri, this week it is today's experience.
Yeah.
It's not really a historical thing. And I think it's pretty obvious from anyone who's been seeing the reports out of there that there are black communities that are regularly, not just in Missouri, brutalized by law enforcement officials that look nothing like themselves.
So part of me sees this, and I wonder, I go, why is this a partisan issue? Why is this a political issue? Why can't this just be an issue that gets discussed and picked apart and dissected and we figure out what the disease is? Why is it that it has to be a knee-jerk political reaction?
Well, I'm sure Tim Mack can comment on the political and politico aspect of this far better than I can. But in terms of the way certain partisan aspects of partisan media react to stories like this, you're right. It shouldn't be a partisan issue.
Yeah.
An unarmed teenager was gunned down, and it's a tragedy. And we shouldn't be making the subject of the story. We shouldn't be making Al Sharpton the subject of the story, but some people want to do that because it's a way that wherever stories like this are elevated, it's a way for certain pundits to say it's an evidence of liberal bias, or like you're like essentially what they're saying without actually saying it is it's almost like an anti-white like sentiment.
War on whites, it's real.
Which which is so stupid. I can't. But the stuff with one of the most jarring things I've seen in the recent days is I think it was a Fox and Friends segment like a day or two ago. They had a guest on to talk about the Michael Brown tragedy, and it dovetails into talking about why Clarence Thomas is good and Snoop Dogg is bad.
Oh my!
And I'm like, there comes a point where you reach a ceiling of like, ideologically driven idiocy on cable news that really makes you want to retch.
Well, let's also treat it with a little bit of a grain of salt. I mean, when we talk about, war on whites and et cetera, what does that actually reflect? It reflects a broader anxiety among the white middle class in America that they are losing their position. And if you look over the last decade and a half, they are losing their position. Their incomes are stagnating. And they are desperately searching for some reason to explain why things have not been going as well for them as they have in decades past. So let's not totally discount where the source of this is from, even though it's resulted in this very bizarre kind of war on whites attitude.
No, absolutely. And it is exactly what Tim just talked about. It is often reflected in this sort of insidious guilt that you hear whenever to go back to the Trayvon Martin stuff, because this stuff seems like there are several parallels
absolutely.
to these stories, that a big reaction to that was talking about the black on white violence. And it was a way in the pages of the National Review or other outlets and publications to essentially say, rather not so subtly, that the real victims in America aren't really black people anymore. It's white people.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the statistics.
Hey,
so
white man right here.
If
I got it pretty good. I'll be honest, it's not so bad sitting where I am. Okay, but that's also why, like, I really want to talk and get all different sides of people who, like when we talked to Debbie Hines, she talked about her professional African American brother who, when he was driving a car and became disoriented, he pulled over and saw a police car, and she said, "Don't go to the police. Find a different solution. You don't want to go to the police. They'll just assume that you're drunk and take you to jail." I talked to a professional guy who's made millions of dollars with his ideas. He moved to France because he said, no matter what, I am always the black guy. And so, I think it's important that we continually hear those stories and know what it's like.
Yeah, and I think also if we look at the stats, right, this war on white anxiety is just patently false. I mean, look at politics. The Daily Beast ran a story this week about how if you're a black staffer on a campaign, you're going to make 80 cents to the dollar.
Yes.
On compared to your white counterpart. If you're a Hispanic campaign staffer, you're going to make 76 cents on the dollar. There are continuing disparities in power in politics, and that's going to continue to drive foundational changes, or prevent foundational changes that lead to more parity.
But racism is dead in America, according to the Supreme Court.
When you talk about prisons in America, when you talk about law enforcement, the criminal justice system, when you talk about the drug war, some of the most important domestic policy issues of our time, you cannot talk about without talking about race if you want to talk about it honestly and intelligently. And yet there are a bunch of people who keep telling me and other people like me that I want to make everything about race.
Yep. So that's very well put. One final point I just want to make to get away from the race and back to the politics thing. I thought Rand Paul yesterday had a very good comment on the state of things in Ferguson, where he said, we need to demilitarize these cops. Like, these police that are in Ferguson, they're more battle ready than the troops we sent to Iraq.
Sure.
And I'm on board with that. I don't think that Ferguson, Missouri, or St. Louis, Missouri needs an armored tank with a sniper nest up top. Several of those roaming the streets of small town Missouri.
Well, why do they have these? I mean, the Pentagon.
Why do they have those?
This is a legacy of post 9/11. After the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the United States government has a bunch of armored vehicles sitting around. They're called MRAPs, and they're originally meant to prevent soldiers from being ambushed, to protect them from mines, which is, of course, not a problem in the urban environment.
No!
We don't have IEDs sitting, on
in the middle of a peaceful protest?
Right.
No, that's not the case.
But because local law enforcement can't afford, urban type vehicles, urban setting vehicles that are armored, they end up with these gigantic, imposing military vehicles. The Pentagon has sent thousands and thousands and thousands of automatic rifles to law enforcement officials all across the country because they have surplus. I mean, and the question is, what do these law enforcement officials need with automatic weapons? What is the scenario by which you would really need that?
Yeah.
And some law enforcement officials will say there's the rare occasion where we have someone barricaded in a building, or we have a active shooter scenario. But it's an extraordinarily rare scenario, and it really does set the tone for how police and society interact. If you go to a protest and there are masked men with machine guns and armored vehicles there, it sets the tone as to how the confrontation is going to unfold.
Yeah. All right, we're right up against a break. Good stuff. Tim Mack and Aswin Soupsang, both from the Daily Beast. Stick around. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Make sure you stay tuned. By the way, if you want to follow these gentlemen in studio with us on Twitter, you should do so. Aswin is at Swin24, and Tim is at Tim K. Mac on Twitter. Make sure you follow both of them. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm also on Twitter at Peter Ogburn, but I wouldn't follow me. We'll be right back. Quick break.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to
protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show, 49 minutes past the hour. Boy, the show is flying by today on this Friday, August 15th. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today, and I have brought in some very fun guests to help cover the news for the hour. Aswin Subsang from the Daily Beast is in studio. Follow him on Twitter at Swin24. And Tim Mack, senior congressional correspondent from the Daily Beast, also in studio. Follow him on Twitter at Tim K. Mack. So, Tim, one of the reasons that we wanted to have you in was to talk about your piece, Meet the Beer Bottle Dictator. Who is the beer bottle dictator?
Okay, so there's one guy in the federal government. He works at the Treasury Department, and he approves every single one of the beer labels in the United States. Every single beer bottle you've ever seen, every beer can you've ever seen has been approved by this one guy. And the kicker is, he insists on calling himself Battle.
Wait a minute, hang on. Battle. That's a pretty decent nickname.
So he's like a mid-level bureaucrat in the Treasury Department, and he has enormous power over this billion-dollar industry that people and lawyers come and they beg for his help and acquiescence on regulatory issues because they want to get their designs through.
But when there are, how many different kinds of beer bottles are there now?
There are a ton.
Every city now has a brewery or more.
If you want to sell out of state, you need the approval.
Wow.
Of this one guy named Battle Martin.
Battle Martin. How do you get that gig?
I actually don't know. But he's been doing it for years and years and years. And the man is a one-man machine. He has approved this year alone 29,500 beer labels single-handedly.
This year alone?
Yeah.
Holy cow! I'm trying to figure. I'm terrible about trying to figure out how many a day that would be. That's insane.
He's doing 20 an hour. But people who have seen him, say he is a total workaholic. He's been spotted at conferences working on 2 or 3 laptops at the same time, approving beer labels.
Oh man!
And a lot of these labels are pretty, blah. It's like
there are some that are super.
Right.
There are a lot of really these days anyway, more intricate labels with actual artwork on them that have been put out on beer labels.
Yeah, but what's the most interesting part of it is how pedantic Battle Martin can be and the kinds of labels that he'll reject.
What kind of labels will he reject?
Well, he rejected a beer label that had the King of Hearts on it because he believed that the heart implied a health benefit, that if you were to drink this beer, you would become more healthy. That was the implication that it was. Or there was a beer bottle that had a hamburger on it, a picture of a hamburger, and he rejected it because it implied there was a meat additive in the beer. Or one with Santa who had really wide googly eyes, and he rejected the beer label because Santa's eyes were too googly. And you cannot imply on a beer label that alcohol will make you drunk. You cannot imply the physical effects of alcohol on alcohol. So with this googly eye, here's what the designers did. They just submitted a less googly-eyed Santa, and Battle was like, right through.
Whenever I drink too much tequila, I look like a googly-eyed Santa.
Exactly.
I mean, Tim, this was a fascinating story you wrote, but I just have a quick question. Could you find a single photo of Battle?
No, we couldn't find anything of him. We couldn't get an interview with him. We couldn't get any biographical details of him.
Does he exist? Is there like proof that
he's actually
like
just an algorithm?
He is like the Yeti of the beer industry.
Whoa!
Right? He's like a legend. He's a legend, right? If you are a craft brewer or if you run a beer distillery of any kind, you need to know him and you've interacted with him in some way over the years.
No kidding. That is such a fascinating story. If you want to read the whole thing, by the way, I just tweeted it out. At BP Show is where you should follow us, and you could follow Tim at Tim K. Mack. But go check it out. Go read the story. It's called Meet the Beer Bottle Dictator. Terrific stuff. All right, gentlemen, that's it for the Daily Beast Takeover.
No, man.
You're getting kicked out. Aswin, we're out of time. We're up against a break.
I haven't even gotten my trousers off
Aswin Soup saying, Tim Mack, both from the Daily Beast. Thank you, gentlemen, for both coming in. Really, really good stuff. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. We'll be back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogden. Very, very short segment here. Thanks again to Swin and Tim Mack for being here. Quick clip I wanted to play. I was going to play for them. Just didn't have a chance. Tom Coburn, senator from Oklahoma, was at a town hall yesterday. He had some thoughts on the media.
There are certain shows on Fox I can't watch.
Whoa!
Because they're totally not fair and totally not balanced.
Whoa!
And so what I want is I want all the information to which I can make the best decision.
I want to know which shows he's talking about.
Yeah, that's a good question.
He doesn't get into that, but I'd love to know what that's all about. I'd love to know which shows he thinks are like I can't think of any that aren't way off base. You know, like all of them are pretty far off, except for Shepard. I like Shep Smith.
Oh, really? Is this confession time?
Line them up. Line up the hate tweets. I like Shepard Smith. I think he's wonderful. I think he does a good show. Hi, haters. In the next hour of the show, we've got a lot of stuff to get into. We're going to get a report from on the ground in Ferguson. Plus, we have Matt Laslo from Bills and Brews in studio, so you're going to want to make sure you tune in. YouTube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now. We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, the final hour of the program for today, Friday, August 15th. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Bill will be back on Monday. Or earlier I had said Bill will be back tomorrow. No, we don't do a show on Saturdays. Bill will be back on Monday. Thank you all very much for your constructive criticism while I've been filling in. It's been fun. But, of course, I cannot do this by myself. When I host, I always bring in fun people who know what they're talking about. I approach the show not unlike the way that a lot of people approach a donut. I fill an empty, vacuous hole with wonderful goodness. So this is what I've done. I brought in my wonderful goodness for the hour, Matt Laslo, reporter, radio man, and founder of Bills and Brews. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm still not awake yet. You have way too much energy.
I've been up for a while. This is sort of like jangly fumes of a Friday morning, right? So we're gutting it out here in the last hour. But I'm glad you're here because there's so much to talk about. Hey, I want to play again that Scarborough clip, Elisa, if you have it, because this drives me nuts. Because yesterday morning, we had Ryan Riley from the Huffington Post, and we had Wesley Lowery on, both from Ferguson, who...
They let him out of jail?
They were out of jail. They had been let out of jail. Cool. We had Riley on, like, moments after he was released from jail. Like,
I think he was still waiting for his shoes.
Yeah, he was shuffling around with no shoelaces in his shoes. We've all been there, right?
I know he got to call his dad from prison.
Yeah. So we had him on the phone. We talked to him. But Joe which, by the way, I said yesterday, and I'll say it again today, that whatever happens in Ferguson, the way that I think the tide changed, I think a lot of it had to do with them getting arrested.
Yeah.
President talked about him yesterday.
You don't mess with the press corps.
No, don't mess with the press corps. And that story of how it all was unfolded in Ferguson was being brought to you by the great reporters who are doing awesome work there on the ground. That's not how Joe Scarborough sees it, by the way. Yesterday on Morning Joe, this is how he put it.
I've been in places where police officers said, all right, you know what, this is cordoned off, you guys need to move along. And you know what I do? I go, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. I don't sit there and have a debate and film the police officer, unless I want to get on TV and have people talk about me the next day.
What a dork.
And he's not a freaking reporter.
Exactly.
No,
yeah.
The press pass means a lot.
Yeah.
First Amendment, dude.
Yeah, anytime a police officer says anything, you yes, sir, and you move along. That's dangerous, dude. Yeah. If that's what you really think.
And then they also told them no recording. And then you just ask. As a reporter, you're trained to ask, why not, sir? Show me the law.
If you're sitting inside of a McDonald's, like these reporters were, Ryan Riley and Wes Lowery, and the police show up and say, everybody get out of this McDonald's for no good reason whatsoever, right? And you try and document this, as is your job as a reporter. You don't just have to buy what the police say, man.
And it's also the reporter's job to be the last person or the last two to leave.
Right.
And then they weren't obstructing anything. They were just going about doing their job and listening.
Yeah, give me a reason.
Yeah.
Especially when part of the story down there is how the police have just run roughshod over the citizens there. Yeah, don't just buy whatever the police say.
That's kind of my motto for life.
Scarborough. Look, yeah. When the police says hands behind your back, don't buy it, man. Fight the power.
And so what was Scarborough's point? That
his whole point is, well, these guys just wanted to get on TV.
Well, I just want to get on TV. I'm stuck on radio. I mean, I get that. Maybe I have to go to Ferguson.
Go get arrested, dude. This is instant cred, instant street cred. What are you doing?
Is he having them on their show this morning?
You know what? Well, both of them were on MSNBC, by the way, like a couple of times. Wes Lowery was on right after Morning Joe, and then Ryan Riley was on with Joy Reid in the afternoon. So, like, come on, dude. Give me a break.
Scarborough.
Respect the reporters out there on the ground.
When has he ever been outside of New York since?
Dude was a congressman.
I know.
Who sort of failed into a TV show. Remember Scarborough Country? The old school, back when MSNBC wasn't MSNBC? Scarborough Country. And he was so bad at it. We used to make fun of him because every single segment would just start with him looking down at papers, and he'd be confused, and someone would clearly say, "You're on." He would go, "Hey!" That's how he started every segment.
Oh man,
he's improved.
It's like waking up
slightly. It is. Yeah. Like, were you sleeping? No.
But in his defense, I think Ryan Riley should be in jail. I just want to get that out there for the record. Ryan, I hope you're listening. I do love you, but I think the police should
tough but fair. That's tough but fair. All right, Matt. Let's jump right into some of the business of D.C. Because you cover Congress. Congress is out of town. What did they leave on the table when they left?
What didn't they leave on the table?
You really, man?
Did they finish anything?
Not really.
Emergency aid for undocumented children?
Nope.
Immigration reform?
Nope.
And I guess that's a part of it. But funding the government, Export-Import Bank, which no one cares about or even understands.
I think that's part of that issue. The immigration thing I find particularly perplexing.
Yeah.
Because they've got this whole thing about they're going to sue the president because he's, acting in a certain way over it, but then they're not going to get anything done, and their answer to it was, well, they give it back to the president and say, you get it done.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you doing?
They're just spinning their tires. Well, this is another one of those things that just divides the Republican Party, so they kind of don't want to air their dirty laundry. But all they could cobble together in the GOP was like, what, $750 million or something?
Yeah.
And the president asked for like 3.5.
Right.
Which was just a pittance. But then that money wasn't even new money that they were giving him. They were just like, oh, you already have this in the budget. So we're just rearranging your budget. They just don't want to help him out at any turn.
At all.
And this, at a certain point, people are just going to realize and both parties are guilty of it, but there's just this pettiness there. This isn't a national emergency.
Yeah.
These are kids, too.
And also, with the immigration thing in particular, I find it so confusing because you were there in 2012. I mean, everybody, except for a small minority of red meat Republicans said, like, we have got to get immigration reform done. Yeah. And just as a matter of self-preservation for the Republicans, like, they needed to get immigration reform done. And look at where we are. Nothing.
And a lot of that comes down to House politics and these smaller districts that they're representing. But if the party wants to have a viable future, every analyst agrees, they have to do something with immigration reform.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just giving red meat to the liberal base.
How much of this has to do with, like, midterms versus a nationwide election, right? Like, do you think maybe this plays okay for the midterms, and then once that happens, there's going to be sort of a shift, like, okay, now we're going to focus on 2016. Now we have to get something done.
Well, and that's a part of it, too. I think leadership didn't want to bring this up and give the Tea Party base, for lack of a better term, something to come out for in August when these lawmakers are back home doing town hall meetings and all that. But now you're having the flip side of that. A lot of lawmakers didn't want to go home and face voters if they didn't touch it. Because now you have a couple moderate Republicans, or you have the Latino base really coming out and being vocal and saying, hey, do something about this. And then now as these kids are fanning out in communities across the U.S., it's on everyone's radar. So Congress just looks dumb, weak, petty, all these things.
I think a lot of it is really comes down to pettiness when you talk about the lawsuit and just the adamant refusal to do anything that may possibly in any way, shape, or form.
I just filed a lawsuit against Obama yesterday. I thought everyone in Washington is supposed to sue the president.
Yeah. No. We all have to do that now. That's just part of living here. That's just how you got to do it.
You get your license?
Yeah.
You get the number for a good lawyer? Why did you sue the president?
But like, how does a lawsuit against the president of the United States, not to turn this into, a DC conversation, but how does that play? I mean, how does that play? People don't look at that as something they really support. Do they?
The funny thing about this, if you talk to Republicans, like, they'd say he's broken the law on everything. But I'd say the biggest claim they have is the Bergdahl thing. Because that law says you have to notify Congress within 30 days. The administration really fumbled on that one. They didn't even tell the heads of the Intelligence Committee in both chambers. So that one, the congressional statute, is just very plain. and they don't even go that. They go
That's
with
fair.
They go with this Obamacare thing that they don't even agree with. They
Right.
don't want businesses under this.
Right.
So I don't know. The optics on this are just totally messed up. But the whole party is speaking in unison, and they say this president's breaking the law, disregarding Congress at every turn, and then they sue him over something they agree with him on.
Does this resolve itself at all? Does this get any better? I mean, I guess midterms will be a big factor in the whole thing, but there is a certain lame duckness to the Obama presidency, considering that this is what we can get done.
Hillary's not president? I
know.
I thought she was in.
Right?
Because the media's
bizarro world.
The media's given up on Obama.
Isn't this hilarious how we are right back where we were in 2008 with Hillary Clinton?
But then we're also debating the Iraq war, kind of.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then we might have a Bush. I forget who said it. Maybe Sahil from TPM. But he was like, "Are we about to have a 2016 election with a Bush running on Iraq again?" I was like, "Oh man,
oh my God,
this is like such a bizarro world. This is gonna be the third Bush."
It's like that would be.
Yeah.
I mean, people are obviously salivating it, especially after the last election with Romney. But the Hillary thing of the inevitability of Hillary being the candidate, right? We've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
We saw what happened last time when she was crowned.
Hey, you're a part of the problem. Why are we talking presidential politics?
It's true.
You're a part of the problem. I'm going to walk out of here and go take a nap.
That's fair. I deserve that.
Because we have these midterms, which are really important. Everyone just glamorizes these presidential candidates, and then so now we have, I guess it happens each time, but now Rand Paul running in the Senate, Ted Cruz running, Rubio, who's that lady, Elizabeth Warren. So you have the focus now on Congress is becoming this presidential contest, which, no, you're
Right.
lawmakers.
Right.
Can you legislate? We have pressing problems.
Yeah.
Do your job.
Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, they are not. I mean, they are not serving as elected officials, right? They are national politicians.
This is true. Rand Paul is interesting. The Post, Blake had an interesting piece where he just kind of dissected Rand Paul and how he's different than the Tea Party. And he said he's maybe a Rand Paul Republican, which is interesting. He's kind of angering the Tea Party in parts, but on something like Ferguson, he comes out and he says, we got to demilitarize the police forces. So the scrutiny, Rand Paul brings, I don't know, he's reaching across the aisle with Democrats on something like prison reform, justice system reform. He's an interesting one to watch, and he's doing some of that inside the chamber, but then he's also spending most of his energy running.
Yes.
And he's definitely nationalized himself, but doing some of that from within the chamber, which is what he's supposed to do. And if you can, I guess, contemporary legislating, you have to be on Twitter, you have to be on Facebook, you have to get the masses behind you, I guess, to show leadership. So I guess maybe that's how you legislate in the contemporary Congress.
Yes, that's the
Via
new
Twitter
that's the new
and
Congress.
Facebook and
he's on
God.
Snapchat apparently, which I mean,
I'm not even on Snapchat.
I'm not on Snapchat. Yeah,
should we get on Snapchat right now?
Maybe we should. Yeah, we'll do. We'll do the rest of the show via Snapchat. Bye, everyone. Find us on Snapchat. We'll do it there. No, but you brought up with the Rand Paul thing. I mean, Bill is super liberal guy, but he's come on this show a couple times to say, yeah, I actually really agree with what Rand Paul said. The stuff he said about drones and like bombing and killing American citizens and civilians in other countries. He's right on the money. He's right on the money. And Bill hasn't had a chance to chime in on what he said about the demilitarization of the police. I know he'd agree with that too.
Yeah.
That's a smart, thoughtful comment.
No, and these scenes coming out of Ferguson.
Yo.
Oh, my God.
Terrifying.
Really?
Terrifying. And the fact that a place like, because I know a lot of these people come in from St. Louis, the police that came in, but even a city like St. Louis has access to essentially tanks. I mean, they are gigantic armored vehicles with like sniper nests on top of them. And these pictures of these journalists and also former soldiers who put out pictures that say, like, this is what I wore when I invaded Iraq.
Yeah.
This is what the people are wearing that are on the streets of Ferguson, and look at how much better equipped they are.
Really?
Yeah. Like the guy in Ferguson shows up and he's got a helmet with a visor and he's got pads.
Yeah.
He's got an AK-47 plus he's strapped on the side. And then this guy puts up a picture of him going into Iraq. He's just got like a helmet and a rifle and a flak jacket.
Oh, man.
And he's like, this is what I wore when I invaded Iraq. And this is what these guys are wearing to go to a peaceful protest in Missouri.
And I think a big part of that was Department of Homeland Security. Got all this money, billions of dollars. In the states, I guess it was Block ran it out or something, but the states got to decide where a lot of this went. But then also lawmakers, this is back in the day of earmarking, so lawmakers steered it to these small communities. But yeah.
Crazy, man.
But like these big armored vehicles and things.
It's terrifying.
Because I guess every community in the U.S. now is prepared for their own 9/11.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know.
I don't know either, man. This is now like we've seen what they're capable of without somebody keeping them in check. Knowing how backwards a lot of these places can be,
yeah,
and some of these officials on the on the ground could be, and the fact that it took several days to get under control.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were running through the streets of Ferguson for days before they got under control.
And then they bring in the state troopers. I'm just thinking of super troopers. I'm like, oh, no. Oh, man. It's come to this.
Yeah. Get those tanks out of here, meow. All right, we're going to take a quick break. It's 23 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. I brought along Matt Laslo from Bills and Brews to sit in with me for the hour. Quick break. We'll be right back. Lots more to talk about.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat?
is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn in for Bill Press today. We're going to be talking to someone on the ground in Ferguson, Missouri in just a few moments. I have Matt Laslo in studio with us. Matt, we only have about a minute, but I want to get your take on the Hug Summit.
Is there really?
I'm only going to call it the Hug Summit because that's what everybody's calling it. You know what I'm talking about.
I hate you.
The goofiest thing ever.
Why? Do people even know what that is? Obama and Hillary hugging
Hillary
it out?
had a disagreement with the president.
Isn't that a good thing?
Right, that's what I've been saying.
Why do people want a monolithic Democratic Party? Why
Thank
do
you.
people want a monolithic Republican Party? It's good to have disagreement within the party.
This whole idea that this thing was whipped up into a conflict between the two of them and that now they have to meet and hug each other to make sure that they show that it's okay to disagree.
Yeah. No, and what do people think when cabinet meetings are going on? There better be airing of disagreements.
I want that to be contentious. I want everybody to be at each other's throats. And I want the best idea to come out of that. That's what I want. Not someone to say something, yep, that's spot on. Absolutely. And that's what they want.
Right now, I kind of really just want to hug you.
Let's go to a break. We're going to go to a quick break. Peter Ogburn and Matt Laslo embracing when we return.
Is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing done. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack.
Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content.
Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, 33 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. I am filling in for Bill, along with Matt Laslo, our friend, in studio for the whole hour. Matt, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You can follow Matt at Matt Laslo, Laslo, on Twitter. Also, follow him at Bills and Brews on Twitter. We'll talk more about Bills and Brews coming up here.
Cool.
A little bit later on in the show, but right now we want to get a report from on the ground in Ferguson, Missouri. So we are turning to Alexia Campbell from the National Journal, who is out there. Alexia, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. I just followed you on Twitter, by the way, at Alexia Campbell, and your bio, staff correspondent for the National Journal, Taekwondo black belt. They sent the right person out there. Good grief. I hope you haven't had to use any of your training out there.
Luckily, no, definitely. But I did get blocked by police from trying to do my job, so that wasn't a good feeling.
Well, let's talk a little bit because there's a lot to get into. But I want to talk about the mood change in Ferguson, because a lot of the people that I've been following have talked about how there's been a shift in Ferguson over the last, say, 24 hours. How it's been days of police abuse is one way to put it, but certainly sort of overpowering the citizens and the media there. What's the situation been like, and what is it like today?
So, I mean, there really has been a shift, and really what the shift has been is, everyone is still angry about what happened with Michael Brown, but really what the change has been is that the city is not on, like, the military-style lockdown that everyone saw on TV and photos. It's the police was kicked out, I guess, from operating right now, and the Missouri State Police or Highway Patrol took over operations, and that pretty much meant that they kept the police out of there. There may be like one or two police hanging around, and they were dressed in normal uniform, and the ones that were there were from the city of St. Louis, which protesters seem to really like. The city police, I know that their police force is more diverse. They seem to have a different relationship with people there. So, there were only a handful. They weren't wearing bulletproof vests, and of course, so that was the main difference. So people actually had felt that they could express their concerns, or many times anger. Like they were expressing anger without the fear of like being shot. So that was like the biggest view that I saw, that people were not afraid anymore of being angry and showing how angry they were, and it wasn't any violence, any kind of mood that would indicate that anyone felt like there was violence that was about to break out.
I do think that there was.
That's a big difference there.
It seemed to me like one of the biggest differences was that the police actually began to engage the crowds that had gathered. Right, they actually tried to have a dialogue.
Yeah. And one of the things that was interesting was that the St. Louis County police chief actually showed up at one point with the highway patrol captain, and that was the one moment where I saw people really get angry, but it was more like angry that when they were talking to him. So he showed up because he had been leading the operations that had happened last night, where there were tanks on the street, people in riot gear, like that excessive presence. So people wanted answers from him, and it got pretty heated. I mean, it didn't seem like at any point that it was going to become violent, but people did surround him and ask him. One woman asked him at some point, what was this all about yesterday? You had the dogs on us, you took the media away. We couldn't walk on public streets anymore. And what was that all about? This is our town. And he didn't answer, but but the highway patrol captain did bring him there for a minute to talk to people, and then it was kind of, they were kind of surrounding him so much that I guess they decided it was better to get him out of there. But he did show up, which is kind of shocking to me, but he was there.
And what do you think? Is there going to be a restructuring there? How much control does the governor have over this, or is this all? And that's the big question in my mind. Will voters now try to change their local representation, or how much can the governor actually shake up?
Yeah, I don't know. I was a crime reporter for many years in South Florida. I'd never heard of a governor of any state just kicking out the local police force and taking over. I'd never heard of that, so I don't know what legal basis they have to do that. But I know that the situation was so volatile that the governor felt he had to do something. Now I don't know what kind of how much power he has to change things permanently, but it looks like whatever they did do yesterday has been working. So maybe there'll be a situation where the Ferguson police chief is resigns. I don't know. I'm who knows what's going to happen, or maybe they're just going to make a concerted effort to hire people who represent the community, like who are more African Americans. But I don't know what's going to happen.
We're getting word, by the way, because we heard last night that they were going to release the name of the police officer who shot and killed Michael Brown, the unarmed black teenager that kicked this whole thing off. I just saw from Antonio French, the alderman who's been making a lot of news there on the ground, says at 8 o'clock a.m., I'm assuming a.m. local time, police will release the name of the officer who shot Michael Brown. What's the next step after that?
So that's definitely one of the big things. I mean, people were chanting yesterday in the streets to the Metro St. Louis County Police Chief that they want the name. We want the name, and so that's what they've been wanting. And so after that, they get the name. I think all they want to know is who is this person who came and shot Michael Brown. And then what's next will probably be, okay, now tell us when this investigation of the shooting ends. And they'll be calling, I'm sure, for when is this investigation of did he use excessive force? Tell us when an investigation. Then I bet there will be like a lot of pressure for the investigation to come to an end so people can see whether or not it was how it was handled and what, have reaction to whatever that will be.
And do you think there's going to be, Matt Laslo here again, do you think there's going to be any lasting policy change from this? I know House Democrats are calling for hearings into this and some other incidents of alleged excessive force by different police forces. But then you also have libertarians and liberals kind of coming together saying we have over-militarized local police forces. Do you think there's going to be any consensus back here in Washington, or after the August recess, do you think we'll forget about this and talk about the next HUG summit?
Obviously, I can't speculate on what will happen, but the only thing I could see that Congress would have any role in is like you had mentioned, like the militarization of the police and a lot of the equipment, like the tanks and all of this gear that seem to be funded by federal grants. And maybe it'll be scrutinized more closely, all this equipment that is being sent to local police departments and whether or not they're necessary. And so that's the only thing I could think of that could possibly change. I don't know if it will on a deeper level.
What impact did President Obama's words have on the community of Ferguson yesterday? He didn't say a whole lot, but what he did say I thought was powerful and interesting. I think he should have said something sooner. I think he should have certainly was within his rights to take power or take control, I should say, of the situation earlier. But when he did speak yesterday, he talked about how the parents of Michael Brown will never get to hold him again. He spoke to Jay Nixon, the governor. He talked about the excessive force and the bullying by the police, and he talked about healing. How were those received yesterday?
Honestly, they were not. Everyone in down here in Ferguson seemed to not really care. And it's not that they didn't. They were didn't like it. It's just that they're so sick of politicians like talking about it. All they cared about was, can I go on the street and express my concerns without fear of being killed by police? And when that shifted, things shifted for them. I really do not think people were concerned or even like happy or had any reaction to Obama. That's my impression was you know what, this is what politicians are going to say something. So it didn't mean a lot, I don't think, from my perspective.
How did it, and maybe this will come out in the next couple of days, how did it get so out of control? Who was making that call to put weapons of war on the streets of Ferguson, Missouri? How did it spiral into that, and it stayed that way for a couple of days?
It blows my mind, the situation. I felt like it was like in the twilight zone when I was trying to reach this demonstration yesterday with my colleague to cover the protest, and just being kept away from it, just so far away we couldn't even see or hear the demonstration. We were told it was over when it wasn't. Whoever was making these calls, I'm not sure, but it was something I'd never witnessed before in my time as a crime reporter, and just all the mind games playing with us, trying to make us fear for our safety when we were nowhere near the demonstration, and then just blocking us and threatening us with arrest. And then you just see these tanks roll by. And here's one of the saddest things of the whole experience for me was that when finally they did let us walk down West Florissant Avenue after they dispersed most of the crowd, and the tanks were still rolling by, but there were, several teenage black boys who felt that by walking on the street with myself and our video producer that they would be safe from the cops. And that so we'd be walking down the street and they would be following us because they were concerned that if they were black men walking down the street by themselves, that they would be targeted by police.
Good grief.
Man, so sad.
That's really sad and super scary, and a kind of a painful look at the reality of not just the situation in Ferguson, but I would say across the country for a lot of people. Yeah. All right. Alexia Campbell, staff correspondent from the National Journal, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
You can follow her on Twitter at Alexia Campbell, Alexia Campbell, and read her work at nationaljournal.com. All right. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm here with Matt Laslo. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a few moments. Stay with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, 48 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill today. You can follow me on Twitter, @Peter Ogburn. I am joined by Matt Laslo, Congressional reporter, and the man behind Bills and Brews. I encourage you to follow both Matt Laslo, Laslo, and Bills and Brews on Twitter. Matt, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
What's the latest with Bills and Brews? First of all, bring us back to speed. We talked to you about it last time you were here. What is Bills and Brews all about?
Bills and Brews, it's a show, web-based show at billsandbrews.com where I sit down with lawmakers and we basically have pub chats. They drink a craft brew from their district, and I drink who's ever sponsoring me. And if there's sponsors out there, please buy me beer.
Absolutely. Yes, I love it. It's a great idea, and everything that I've seen from it is awesome. You had a successful Kickstarter campaign, which was great. And I'm glad to see that it is coming to fruition. What's the latest? What happens next?
I've been drinking a lot of beer.
Have I, but
I've been drinking a lot of beer alone. But soon I will be drinking a lot of beer with politicians.
Nice.
We're going to try to get a few more pristine episodes out ahead of the election. Right now it's summer. No one really gives a shit about politics or politicians.
Hit the dump button, Elisa.
So then we figure, September, October, when people actually start paying attention to these races and caring about politicians, then we'll drop our next couple episodes. We might do a little snapshot some of the Virginia races. Also, Congressman Moran's retiring. So when you get these guys retiring, they're a little more loose-lipped. Then you plow them with a couple beers and they get really
loose-lipped.
So, excellent. We're trying to be very methodical and see who we can get the drunkest.
No, I love it. This is actually one of the Fridays that we're not getting drunk on the show. Like every now and then we have.
I'm really, really, really sorry. I tried.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to throw shade towards you.
We hear there's beer in the cooler.
We have beer in the refrigerator. Would you like a beer?
Congress is gone.
Yeah, let's have beers. Sure. Why the hell not?
My coffee's about empty. Hopefully my girlfriend's not listening. I do have to drive us to the Eastern Shore later.
One beer is fine. One breakfast beer? Come on.
Hey,
There's nothing wrong with that. It's really, really cool. And I think that your premise of let's just sit down, hang out, have a couple beers, you might actually find something and get to the bottom of it.
Us as reporters, we cover all this partisan BS, but when these lawmakers come off the floor after giving this vitriolic floor speech where they're just basically fundraising for the cameras, they're just normal people when they're chatting with us. So I figured, why not pull that veil back and just see if they can be real people. Not that they are real people, they're politicians.
Right.
I mean, these people are far from normal. I don't know what makes them tick. But yeah, messing with them on camera is always fun.
So you cover Congress. I think it's safe to say that people don't have a very high opinion of Congress. They don't love what Congress is up to. Is there any rehabbing that image at all, and how do they rehab that image?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Like right now what you see is there is a lot of bipartisan work going on in committees. And there is serious legislative efforts. I mean, this Congress isn't all bad. Yes, it's a do-nothing Congress. They're gridlock on all these big issues because they focus on these big headline-grabbing issues. And then Washington just grinds to a halt. But if you look, they did a farm bill, the water resources development bill, which is billions of dollars and which hadn't been passed in years. So this Congress is doing some big things. And even immigration reform passed the Senate with big numbers. never was even taken up in the House because it became so politicized and that people focused on these headlines instead of actual policy. And I think there are a lot of areas of policy agreement. But right now, I think the biggest thing is just fundraising. These lawmakers, we need campaign finance reform because as long as both parties are making, and everyone blames the Republicans and the Koch brothers, it's the Democrats have caught on to. In 2012, Obama's money-making machine just pulled in all the money. But now the Democratic Party, DCCC, and the House campaign arm for Democrats, and then also the Senate campaign arm for Democrats, these guys are pros at raking in millions and billions of dollars. And all the while, no progress is really done. Because on these big issues, they raise money off it instead of actually fixing a problem.
It sucks that that's the game now. That is the game. And it gets back to what you were saying earlier about how there are so many of these people who they're not focused on creating and legislating and getting stuff done. They're worried about running for president or getting that national profile, which part of me wonders, it's a small part of me, but part of me wonders if this is going to end up biting them in the ass at some point, the way it did Eric Cantor. I think the idea that people voted Eric Cantor out of office because he was too moderate is garbage. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that nobody associated Eric Cantor with Virginia. Nobody associated him with Virginia. He was a national politician. He's a Washington politician.
Yeah, Washington insider.
Yeah.
No, and I think it will, I don't know, we saw it with the Tea Party.
Yeah.
A lot of that was anti-Obama. But then also, there was this true unrest. Then we saw the same sentiments come out with Occupy.
Yeah.
The same exact sentiments. So doing interviews with Occupy people across the country and Tea Partiers across the country, half the time I didn't know whether they were a Tea Partier or an occupier. So
blurred lines.
Yeah. So I think politicians are going to hopefully face a backlash from voters because both parties seem to be putting themselves ahead of the country, and voters shouldn't stand for that, even though they are and have been for years.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Matt Laslo from Bills and Brews. BillsandBrews.com. Check it out. Keep up to speed there. Matt, I appreciate you coming in, man.
Thanks for
so
having me.
much. Good stuff. Good
Anytime.
hour. All right. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. Very, very, very short segment when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Bill Press Show. Bill will be back on Monday. Again, my name is Peter Ogburn. If you like what you heard, you can follow me on Twitter at Peter Ogburn. Also, make sure you're following the show at BP Show. Coming up here, we're going to find out the name of Michael Brown's shooter. That's coming out of Ferguson, Missouri. We will talk about it on Monday right here. Thanks so much.
This is the Bill Press Show.